Hello and welcome. It is the 18th day of April 2019. And in this video, I'm going to start off with LITECOIN. Then I'm going to transition into, well, it's a game. And then in video games, you have like goals and missions. I'm going to go over my next mission that I started. Well, I created the mission. Now I have to actually do it. But whether you're trading markets against Bitcoin or together, whenever you get these large moves, you need to sell them against Bitcoin. I don't really see any other option. For in this game of trading, anyone who got in the early stages, down when it was around 50,000, did see a double up, but nothing too spectacular. But as it was going back to its previous low and below, through all of this price, anyone who bought didn't get scared out and held, had an opportunity to sell. It did get above the 18 average of highs, above this 96 or 100 handle, and it goes from the 100 handle up to about 250, and even from here, 5 it had a 5x move. So this coin is on a lower volatility scale compared to others, but they all have the exact same sort of movements above and below the 18, and then the ones of higher volatility have larger X moves and such. But after this one in here, those who started their buying off any time at the 18 handle and lower, all the way down to, well, in this case, the start of 2017, we had this thing go back up and opportunity. It got above it for a decent amount of time. Even if you sold everything around 30, or you're like, oh, it's up too much and it goes up, well, you'd still end up winning. You buy down in here, you sell it all because it was well extended above the highs, and well, it still work out. And then another opportunity in here. So now, since this market has basically came down below this lows around 18,000, those who bought here all the way to now, well, we'll see in time if there's another opportunity. But for myself, I did, and I own this. I did buy below this. So price above 26,000 starts to mean I heavily start to distribute. But I'm going to be looking hopefully to get into this 60, 55. 80 handle. Okay, so here's my game. I'm not going to tell you what I want to buy because that would be dumb of me, especially because what I want to buy, there's only one available. And it's $49,000 US. I mean, it would be really expensive for me to buy that right now. And stupid, because what is it? Well, I can literally say it's art and it's a painting when I'm done with it, which means it's going to cost more than 49,000 because it doesn't come to me in a painting, but I got a creative idea would be something cool. So the idea is, okay, so this is going to cost me 60,000 when I'm done with it. Would that be smart of me just to throw away 60,000 on something fun like art if I had $1 million, and I've never ever had an ownership of 1 million other than my Zimbabwe dollars? I've never had $1 million, and I still own 100 billion trillion, I think 100 trillion Zimbabwe dollars. I think it might be worth 40, $50 today. It's still in high end condition. I don't even touch it. It's just a bill that they had like, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago, and I have one of the $100 trillion notes, the biggest one ever. I thought it was cool to own. But anyway, the way I look at it is, if I had $2.2 million, I suppose it's easy to afford. I mean, you could do it, I think. So therefore, if I have, say, 2.3 or 2.4, if I buy it and I still have at least that, okay, well, there's my target, to be able to buy that product and still have a portfolio worth at least that. So that's part of the game. Get your portfolio to a certain level, and then you can now go into this level, this field, and buy this and do this, enter that, and so on and so forth. And to me, that just makes playing the trading crypto game just more fun. And what I like about it is it's a realistic goal. And as I switch on to Bitcoin chart, I look at, and I'm going to talk about this, but where we're moving future. how supreme gains in these market getting 400, 100, 1000, 1600x kind of returns on so many different ventures. And when I say, okay, this together, like these two coins together from say whichever point back in here at the worst points we were, I've made, I don't know, against the dollar 1,600 times trading these two coins together, and so on and so forth, and this together. My net portfolio is up this, and in order to do that, Bitcoin prices have no choice but to have magnificent moves, which I think is a possibility. Now, as it stands short term on the daily chart, this is going to close at 6:38 p.m. as I'm doing it. I don't know if it's. I think the times will change soon. I think it's 8 p.m. I think there's an hour and 20 minutes to go. But it's going to be a beautiful setup going forward, looking as if that 6,300 should come into play. And on the weekly, I almost should at least remove those two lines. You know what? Let's do it. I don't need that. But those two are must keeps. Yeah, it looks a little bit better. So yeah, as it plays out, it looks as if there's a move coming in here. I understand it could go either way. It could come back and on a bullish level still come down to this, but this line here at the lower end is the absolute must hold after the great move that it's had. This straight line from the February 4 timestamp all the way through the March 25th, how you can draw that straight line. So all of this was during the resistanceary phase, and it didn't resist it and go lower. It was unable to get above this line at 41 until the longest of time, but when it did, it shot through it really hard, and it's holding it like this. So yeah, it does look to me as if there's a better chance we come up towards here than we do of having any price correction, I think, via that. And we could have a time correction. We could have like 4 or 5 more of these weeks moving forward, and maybe we'll pierce through this line a bit, but I don't know. I mean, the market's going to do what it's going to do. Let's take a look at this more longer term. Of thus put on the Bitstamp market. And in doing such, let's go back to a few periods. This was, I was really intrigued by this. Like I was intrigued by the aid coin when it had low volatility. And I think that's primary. This move here was the primary reason that I even considered. Cause I went from like barely ever looking at Bitcoin to like, well, putting it in is like, man, this is an interesting chart movement. And then how into here, how it rebounded with this. So I got really serious about it, like about the idea of thinking it as it was breaking through this level. And for me, the game started in here. And it was, we'll say, in the middle of this bullish run. And from point A here to here was a net gain of about 20x on Bitcoin. Yet, when you trade the markets efficiently, that's when having, like I stated, the 1000x, the 800x, the 200x, the 1400x moves are very much feasible against the dollar. And that's majorly outperforming that of Bitcoin. I did such. So as I talk about this again, and if I'm starting with like 500 bucks here, maybe six and a half. No, no more, not more, definitely not more than that. I don't think, but yeah, in that area, and then turned into a much, much larger number. Then okay. So now starting here, starting with many, many, many folds higher than 500. If anything happens where price action gets into this area here at 130, and heck, who knows, even if up towards here at the 300 number. Those are definitely reasonable levels. Technical analysis, when you go from point low to point high to point low, well, the next point high in here is not a surprise to where I think it should go based on history. Okay, just trying to move this so that it... Okay, I can't get it as I wanted to show, but what I want to do is I want to bring this just down and so that this is on the bottom. But anyway, yeah, going up here, that means If I'm able to find a way of getting 300, 600, 800x returns, that's gonna be a fun score within this video game, and I might have some nice art. That's worth a lot too. Okay, yeah. So then the more I'm thinking about it, literally, I think I would turn 60,000 into like at least a quarter million with my idea, which is anyway. I shouldn't be saying much more about that because it's just pretty cool. This is more. This is a coin on steroids. I would consider. So again, when we're looking at this, a weekly chart, we'll say monthly chart. You could okay scroll back. So in here, everything's going down. You buy at 50, you buy at 20, and you had orders available up to 1,000, and you had an opportunity to sell over 100 very easy for several weeks. So there was a bit of profit taking available, and that's just got to be done. And then you see it goes below the 18 lows, so that's a buying spot. And above the 18 is a selling spot. And then it goes below a buying spot. And then we get a whole bunch of nice looking charts because of everything else from there. So selling spot up here from like starting at like 83 all the way up to 180. And then the buying spot didn't go in to start until like just like 59 because that's when it went down the 18 lows on this. Some smelling between 67 and 81 if that was I mean that was definitely missed by a lot of people because you're like, yeah, what are you selling at? Oh, like 100 and 130 and 160. So I mean, I could easily be so missed. And if you're selling in portions, maybe you get one portion here, and here you'd sell like eight portions, which is my type of strategy. So I'd be the type of person that would get a little bit of profit in this. So then we get more in below the 18, like from 44 all the way down here to like 20, and then from 39 all the way up to 2,600. You're above the 18. That's where you sell. And if you sell out, like I mean, oh my goodness, 760 was you sold everything because it was up way too much. You still won. You're still right. Yeah, you were wrong about it not being this high, and that cost you profits. But when you talk about costing you profits to the point where instead of making 100 grand, maybe you're making 30 grand or 20 grand, I'm happy making profits. And again, you were selling everything at 780, and here you see it at 292, and then you see it down here at 94, and then it's up to 419, up to 762. So all the buying here can be easily sold. A little bit of buying in here from like 327 down to 233. And then the selling starts from 417 up to 533. A very short period of buying from 362 down to 307. Then in here, the selling would start from 488 up to 675. Buy back at 415. I mean, this is simple indicators if you look at it that way. Buy down to 233. Then the selling starts at 304 all the way up to 400. And now we're back in the buy zones, which started at 264. Really, that's really what it comes down to. And when it gets well above this is when I'd want to sell very aggressively. That's how this game is played for me. After all, I got a goal to ensure that I have a large enough portfolio where I can just have fun throwing away 60 plus thousand, maybe 55 US dollars. There's a few things I don't know how much they're going to cost, but some things just might cost a few hundred here. And that is, I think, it. What else can I show? You know what? Let's go back to and I haven't done this in a week or so. Top gainer, top loser on Bittrex. I have no idea what it is. I don't think I've even been on the site yet because there's been no reason for me to. And DTB is the top loser. And it's only like 18% down over the last 24 hours. It's down to 5.4. And it's been getting its ass kicked since the 2018 highs. It's had very limited time above here. I mean, above here on the 18 highs, limited here, very limited here. I mean, if you count that, and then a little bit here. Monthly charters are much to it. It's just ever since it came out and it came out into 2017, it just keeps continuously getting its ass kicked. And within it, how just go back a little bit and see how buying and selling it within the 18s would work on just the daily chart. Because whichever chart, I mean, you could use it this way with a 15-minute or hour. But again, we can see a good up move. I mean, these are obvious sell spots in here. And if you end up buying at 10,000, this is something you might not have been able to sell back yet. Because there was buying here at 10,000, which so far has gone down to 59.70. A little bit of selling here at 93. So all the stuff sold here can be bought. And then the buybacks start down below here. Possibly this, but here's a selling spot up to the 84. Now up to 11. And then as you can see in here, you can buy back in here. And then maybe you might take a little bit here. But obviously, if you were selling at 99, then you definitely are holding some, looking to sell there again. But if you were selling here at, say, 82, then again at 99 or whatever, then maybe you would sell a first shot here at 89. But obviously, moves like this, it's easy to miss out on. But when you're buying in here June 19th, June 20th at 49, and then you see it at 61, I mean, that's the best volatility you're getting on that daily. Opportunities for sell orders here. And then the big one point where all the buying here, able to buy back up to the 7,000 high. And most likely, you either had to been fast to the game to play it, or you have to have your sell orders in. But you know, having your sell orders in did end up working. The buybacks didn't start till like 28. Little limited action here above it, limited action below it. And another limited point here. Small, okay run on this point after having lows at around 2,000 going up to 37. So that's okay. But it's still hard to be profiting when these markets are bearish because, really, with my trading strategy, if you're able to play a market like this and you start it way back when, if you're break even, barely, especially if you're barely up or you're barely down, you're just very, very proud that you've been able to overperform a shitty market, basically. And here's a spot where there are other possibilities of selling and no buyback starting until 2000. And if you're not selling until it has a decent move above the 18, meaning say back here, you're like, okay, well, the 18's at like 15. I don't want to sell until like at least goes to like 2. Okay, well, here you are. You sold at like 2 here. And then you'd be saying the same thing about the 18 lows. Okay, well, here we have the lows at like this point. I want a decent move. You'd either get the bottom here or you'd miss it. And if you missed it, you'd have lots of opportunities in here. And there we go. More major decline. This had a low come in at 625. So you had opportunities to buy and even sell while it was still below the 18 lows. Because if you had your order in to buy, say, 650 or 701, and then it comes back and it closes that period at 1300, that's still like a double up. So the mathematics would say, okay, well, I can technically sell when it's in a quote unquote buy zone, but that's just because the mathematics of buying down here and selling up there is profitable. And then I could just put my buy order back in again at 679 and then look to sell nicely above here like 1900, which you can see would hit here. And now it's starting to go below it, and that's where we stand today. Let's take a look at the top winner for the last 24 hours. And we're looking here, and this was down 80%, but it just was open today. So I don't count that. So the top gainer is GBG at 37.9. What's the volume? The volume sucks. That doesn't count then. Orbs is the one I'm going to show. And it kind of, I mean, I was thinking about that possibly being one of the coins I was going to play as well, too. I end up picking Neo and that of Florin. But Orbs was on my list as one of the possibilities. And it's a brand new one. It came down, went sideways. It doesn't even have any action on the 18 because this is day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Tomorrow's day number 18. So it will appear in an hour or so. You'll start to see a line come up. So the 4 hour will have it. And just having a phenomenal move, which from this point in here, there was in the decline. Anything, well, once the 18 even started in here, it resisted it, wasn't able to get above it. Couldn't really get above it here. At this point it did, and then in an attempt to hold and stay above it, it did but didn't. It did sort of pierce below, but as we can see on this April 14th timestamp, it gets above it. And then you hold it again for 2 periods amongst the highs. That's a strong setup going in right now. And then there we continue it. That's the type of move you want to see. Okay, it's not backing down, coming to the 18 lows. It's finding support at that area where it came from. It's already established, or it's majorly established this level of resistance. But this is a situation where you can come up to it, have your very small retracement, like 2 periods, very small in price to where it came from. And then there we see no surprise on that next candle. It even amplifies the fact that we could be headed for big moves, of course, which it was. And then multiple periods going up, staying above the 18 highs, which is newly rising, and that just does not change. And then finally, after about 9, 10 of these going up to 700, it has a time move and then it just goes off again. And it's still showing that this move isn't over. It is well overextended as it was in here. So I've heard so many people talk about the Bollinger Bands this and whatever else this. Oh, it's overextended. It's up too much. That's just what people, I guess, say, and sometimes they're going to be right. But as long as there's people willing to still buy at these prices and there's not an influx of people selling, then the action's going to do as the action is going to do. And of course, right now, it is continuously going lower. And even after the price action came from 930 down to 810, still well above the 18 highs on the 4, it continues. People are still buying this price up. A lot of times people will wait for these big corrections to come in. That's, well, they still are waiting for it, but they're not getting it. And then a lot of times if they're not getting it, that can just increase to the market movements to the upside as well. And then the reduction or the not large amount of people that, okay, I just got a profit, man. Look at how much I'm worth. If I can sell this much down right now, and that isn't happening. And when it does, it doesn't last long. For if I want to look at this, what's happened over the last little bit, let's look at this on the hourly. And after this selling in here, after this from the break of the 712, the price action continues to go higher, small sell off, goes higher, breaks this level of resistance, and then 3 big candles down. Now it's back to here again, and we're seeing in this particular hour itself that it looks like we might be ready for another leg higher. It's now after 5 periods amongst the 18 average of highs doing what it's doing. Well, it's breaking out right now. On the 15-minute, when you have spots where the market is up like so much, having a move below the 18 lows or filling some of this empty space. I mean, 810, this is that big area you'd be looking at. And what was the low in here? 813. And then in here, 810, excuse me, 810. I was wondering, I thought it looked exact. Yeah, well, this low was 813. But it did manage to go to exactly that number. So the fact that it went below the 18 was, an attempt to revert the trend. So stage number 1 was band flattening out, which was in here. Stage 2 established support. Down it goes. Now it's established at around 813 at the time. Back to the band. Okay, stage number 3, correctionary mode. Now break it. Well, technically it did, but by 3 points, and it obviously didn't do much. So it's still in that mode of trying to revert the trend. But if it fails to do it and it's able to go higher, then you're in resumption of trend, resumption of uptrend, and we can see how it's done that. Because along the way, with this level of resistance established and then hit again, the 18 starting to rise. It is now broken past that level. We can see it did so. It broke it here, but this last 15-minute period really gave us the confirmation that, okay, this thing is good to go. The probability odds, if this comes down to say 858 area, that would be probably a bottom, I think is a pretty solid statement, I would think. I'm not going to do any buys or bets on this. Although I could, I'm not going to. And that's it. It's a new coin. And I didn't think I was going to go over that much analyses. 24 minutes and 59 seconds, now over 25. So the video is over. Thank you for tuning in and have yourself a great holiday weekend. Bye-bye.